Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This one is going to be a big one because we do have a lot of things to cover. I'm a little bit sick, so that's why I don't have the camera on, but I'm really excited for this video in general. Over the past couple of days, I've been spamming map after map with multiple different Waystone and tablets tactics and strategies to see which one is the best one. And the result is both good and funny, I would say. But yeah, to better calculate everything that we've done over these couple of days, I've prepared a Google Sheet, of course, and I'm going to give you access to it so you can see all of the numbers, and I'm going to explain everything. So we're going to dive straight into it. So what you see in front of you are 6 different tactics and bonus mapping that I've done with different bonus stuff. We're going to talk about them later. The important things are that there are multiple different things that are not going to be calculated, as you can see here. In none of the maps that I've run, I'm not calculating the gear drops, the jewels, the rituals, splinters, basic currency. Anything that's less than exalted is not calculated, or tablets and maps. My gear rarity was at 95% for every single map. You can find my Atlas skill tree right here. If you click on it, you're going to see the Atlas tree. So this Atlas tree is pretty basic. I'm pretty sure you're going to see it all over the place. It's very, very basic for map juicing and map effects and stuff like that. It doesn't focus on any other mechanic like essences, wisps, shrines, researcher strong boxes and stuff like that. You're more than welcome to do that, but all of my tech has been experimented with this specific Atlas tree. Now, the one thing that I wanted to mention is this node right here, which is local knowledge. I had it on for the entirety of the experimentation, which is not ideal. You do want to switch it off and on depending on the biomes that you get on the maps. Now, if you don't know what biomes are on the maps, it's fairly simple. You open your map device, you go onto a random map, you're going to see the name of the map, which is dig site, and then the biome is grass, or it's water, or it's mountain, or whatever the case the biome is. Oh, and just a quick note, the old pre-juiced maps that you did, they're going to have biomes, but the new ones won't. So if I have one, there you go. It doesn't show the biome for some reason, so GG, please fix that. Why do we care about that? Is because when you open the Atlas tree, I have it disabled now, but local knowledge, you're going to see that it gives you multiple different positive benefits depending on the biome that you run the maps. But if you do have this on and you go for a mountain biome, it's going to increase your gold drop chance by 40%, which also means that it's going to decrease your chance of other stuff dropping too. The same goes for the desert biome as well. So usually what you're going to hear from min-maxers is that you do want to trigger local knowledge on and off depending on the biomes that you do. If you're running swamp and water, you want it on. If you're running anything else, you want it off. What others and myself do usually, so we can avoid the manual hustle, is we keep local knowledge on and we only disable it if we do desert biomes. However, as I said, for my calculations and this experimentation, I simply had local knowledge on for the entirety of the thing, just so it can be fair. Now, another important thing to know here is that for the entirety of this experimentation, we didn't focus on any of these mechanics actually, apart from breaching. So breaching is the only one, and this is the talent points that I went for. And the reason we chose breaching is fairly simple. We're going to focus on rares and rarity, and breaching on its own gives us a ton of rares whenever you go over a breach. Anything else is going to need its own dedicated tactics, so we're avoiding things like ritual expeditions and stuff like that. We're only focusing on the breaching. Going back to the sheet, you're going to be able to find the Atlas tree, as I said here before. Every single map has been cleared in the same way, meaning that I do try to find every single rare that I can. If there's an abyssal depth, I go in. Everything has been done in the same exact way. And also, lastly, you're going to be able to see the build that I run the entirety of the thing right here if you want to see what I've done. Now, something very important before we get into the details. These things here are very important for you to know. Quantity of items was the most important thing that we had prior to this patch. Quantity of items was the only thing that we were running on the tablets because tablets was the only resource that was giving us quantity of items. And what quantity actually does for the items, because I saw on stream a lot of people didn't know about it, is it gives you more loot. It doesn't necessarily make the loot better. Quantity, not quality. Quantity of items simply means you're going to have more loot dropping. That's why it was so good. Rarity of items, on the other hand, has a chance to have better rolls on the loot, not necessarily more loot. So it's the exact opposite. Now, something important to know about the rarity of items is that we have two different sources of rarity of items. Rarity of items on the maps, which is what we're actually adding on our Waystones even before the patch, which does not have any diminishing returns as far as I know, which means that you can stack it as much as you want. Now, the second source of rarity of item is on our gear, but that one has diminishing returns. Diminishing returns, for anybody who doesn't know, means that there's a cap that whenever you exceed that cap, the value of each point and each percentage of whatever it is that you're stacking is going to start diminishing in value. So recently, what we found out is that the ideal percentage is around 150% rarity on your gear. And lastly, there's one more source that rares and bosses have that are going to help us with the rarity, which is called the monster rarity. So every single rare and every single boss has their own monster rarity, which all of these things combined together create a formula that will decide what kind of loot you're getting. So the higher the quantity of items is, the more the rarity of items is, both in the map and your gear, and the higher difficulty the monsters that you're killing is. All of those things combined together is what's going to give you good loot, which is why normal monsters don't drop absolutely anything. It's going to be very, very rare whenever normal monsters drop something really good, which is mostly what we're focusing is rares and bosses. So speaking of bosses, it's a really good change that GGG added bosses into our maps, because every single map has now a boss, which means extra loot. Now, a problem that we all had is a recent nerf that happened on quantity of items. Before, we could juice 4 different towers, or even 2 different towers with max quantity of items, which was 7%. Now, the maximum on the tablets is at 10%, whereas everything else like rares and rarity got 3x. If I look at the tablets right here, you can see rarity is all the way to 30%. So this is a huge buff for everything else and a very, very tiny buff on the actual numbers on quantity, but altogether it looks like a nerf for quantity. In the first day, I said, okay, quantity is dead, so we need to move into a different area. And you're gonna notice here that the area that I moved in was rarity and rare monsters. Why I'm focusing on rare monsters, you're going to see the majority of my text here have all significantly increased rare monsters, and you're going to notice that the more rare monsters we get, the better the result is. Rares, why? Because quantity of items and rares are almost the same thing. It's an example that I gave on stream that if a map has 10 rares in the entire map, you have the chance of getting loot from 10 rares. If you increase the quantity of items by 40, 50, 60, 70% like we used to be able to before this patch, this means that you're not increasing the rares that you have, you're simply increasing the amount of loot those 10 rares are going to drop. Now, since quantity of items has been nerfed, you want to increase the amount of rares that you drop. So therefore, if you have 380% on the rares, so let's say now you have 38 rares that are actually going to drop loot, that's as if you have the same amount of quantity like last patch in your maps, but only with rares. Now, the second thing on this example is that even though you have 10 versus 38 rares, cool, we're getting the loot. What about good loot? This is where rarity of items comes into play. Rarity of items, as we said before, improves the roll of whatever it is you're getting. So instead of, for example, the 10 rares dropping potentially, let's just say they're going to drop 5 exalted orbs, all 10 rares combined. And here, obviously, you're going to triple your chances, let's say 15 exalted. Now, if you add a ton of rarity of items on your maps, and your gear. Also, the rares have their monster rarity. All of these things combined have the potential to increase what kind of loot those rares are going to drop. So we can convert or make them drop even better items. So by them nerfing quantity of items, it opened a huge door to be able to experiment in multiple different ways, apart from just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, because it's simply 10 times better than everything else. So what I mean by that, let's go back to the game and I have everything prepared for you. So first way is what you all know about if you followed my previous video, my previous guide on how to juice your map successfully prior to this patch. Nothing changes with that. You're going to get yourself a Waystone tier 15, full on mods on them. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to use a chaotic rarity, because this is going to add rarity to the Waystone whenever you have it active and you chaos orb your Waystone. So we do that, and there you go. Everything is going to be replaced. And as you can see at the very top here, we have 130% rarity. The second thing that we do here is we simply hit it with a vertebrae. This vertebrae is going to allocate a random desecrated mod. And this is pretty important for you guys to know what kind of prefix or suffix desecrated mods you can get, because it's within the tactics and within the strategies that you would want to run. So a good way to look at this is go into the website poe2db.tw. The second that you're here, you want to go all the way up to modifiers. You click the first one, you let it load, you go all the way down where the Waystones are, and you click on the top. Once you click on this one, it's going to load, and you want to go down to the desecrated mods. And here you're going to see what kind of prefix mod you can get if you desecrate it, or what kind of suffix mod you can desecrate it. Why do we care about this? It's because, don't forget, we're trying to get rarity and we're trying to get rares. So anything that gives us one of those two is a good mod to get. The prefix ones are the easier mods to handle in the maps, and they give you decent enough of percentages. As you can see, additional pits, it gives you 25. The suffixes are the negative mods that make the map even harder. For example, one of the hardest is the Mark for Death, which actually causes you to take 50% increased damage for 10 seconds. However, it gives you 40% rarity, almost double of what the prefixes give you. As I said before, the reason we care about the desecrations and we're not going to just be picking by random is because we care about what kind of bonuses they're going to give us. And unfortunately, in the game, you're not going to be able to know unless you pick it. So let me give you an example, and I'm going to show you which ones are the best ones to go for. So if we put it into the tiny window and we reveal, we're going to see we're getting all these three. So I know from experience from running these maps every single day that this one is one of the worst mods that you can possibly get, because it doesn't allow you to deal any damage for 3 out of 10 seconds. However, I know that it's insanely strong on what we're actually trying to get. So it's a suffix, we go to the suffix and we look for it. There it is. So as you can see, it gives me 50% extra rares on my map. So if your build is good enough, I hate this mod, absolutely hate it, but I just take it because of the juiciness. So how it juices it, if I hover over it, you're gonna see that right now we have 105% rarity. And if I pick this, I not only have 150% rarity, I also have 50% more rare monsters, which is huge for us. The last step here is we need to distill it with our emotions, which make it harder, but also provide us with extra benefits. And the choice here is going to be 3 times paranoia. Paranoia adds 45% increased number of rare monsters whenever you put all 3 of them. So now this map is not only going to have 105% rarity, it's also going to have 95% rare monsters. The second way that you can craft your Waystone that's going to be equally as good, it's going to be almost the same steps apart from one. So first step is the same. You're going to use a chaotic rarity. You're going to hit it with a chaos orb. It's going to give you a ton of rarity. But the second step, instead of just hitting it with a vertebrae, you're going to hit it with a sinistral necromancy first. Sinistral, not dextral, because sinistral is going to add a desecrated mod as a prefix instead of a suffix. Remember what I said before, the suffixes are the bad ones that give you higher percentage. Prefixes are the easier ones that give you slightly worse percentages, but they're still good. The reason why the prefix is insanely good is because of this right here, which is priority number 1. If you ever get this, you don't think twice, you always click on it, because it gives you a ton of additional pits and it gives you a lot of percentage. You're going to see additional rare monsters. It gives you a ton of stuff, and you could do 2 things with this map. A, you can sell it for 1, 2, 3 divines. People buy these because they do group plays with rarity bots, and these are the best maps to run as groups. Not that much as solo. I tried a few, you're going to see the results, but it's really good for group plays. It's really good to actually sell it, or you can have some fun on your own with your friends or solo, whatever the case is. And the second priority here is going to be this right here. So it gives you 30% on the rares, and it adds an extra abyssal modifier on them, which makes them A, stronger, and B, it increases their chance to drop better loot. The more modifiers a rare has or a boss has, the more monster rarity is gonna build, therefore the better loot it has potential to drop. And remember this rare modifier additional thing that we're adding here, because it's gonna make sense in a second. So if we hit it while the omen is active, it's gonna add a desecration, and it's always gonna be a prefix. Let's go and see what we actually got here. We didn't get the abyssal that I showed you before, which is the big mod that we can sell. This one right here. This is not bad, by the way. Additional pits, as you can see, gives you 25% rarity, which is something that we would have chosen if we didn't have something better. But we got our second priority, which is the extra abyssal modifier. And once again, you can see that it's going to change up here. 107 on rarity whenever I pick it. Boom, 30% on rare monsters as well. And once again, we're going to distill it with paranoia, because we don't have a lot of rares, but we do have a ton of rarity. The third way of doing this has an extra step at the end. The last step that we do here is going to be slightly different, which is going to be adding a different kind of distilled. So we're going to add the 2 paranoias, which is going to give us an extra 30% on the rares, which is going to bring that to 60%. But in addition to that, we're going to add 1 fear, which is going to give us 25% chance to have an additional modifier. This is the third tech that I actually tried that you're going to see later on. Then the next one is once again very, very similar. Instead of adding more rares, you're going to add fear on the actual map. However, here is where you can actually decide not to do this, because we didn't land big on the rare monsters. It's only 30%. If it was 60 or 70%, fear would make sense. Now that it's 30%, it doesn't really make sense. So we can actually skip fear for this step, and we can go with paranoia, so we can add even more rares into the map, making the map a little bit juicier instead of the fear. Or you can add 1 fear here if you want to, or just 3 paranoias, which is going to practically make the map the same thing as what we did in the second tech. And these are pretty pricey, so you want to make sure that you juice the fear into maps that already have high rare monsters. So good example would be the next one. The next tech and the last tech that I wanted to show you is, instead of going for chaotic rarity, you go for chaotic monsters, which this only adds rare monsters to the actual map. So if we click on this and we hit it, you're gonna see it's at 52 rare monsters and 121 magic monsters. And then we're gonna hit it with a vertebrae and hope we get some more rares here. We got Mark for Death, so it's definitely something I'm going to go for here. This is a tough mod, but look at that beautiful percentage. We have 40% item rarity, 52 rares, and 91 magic monsters. Here, we can actually decide to go for the fear. Again, it's not mandatory, but it's just another tech that I found that actually works. So as you can see, full fear, we're going to have 40% rarity, 52 rare monsters, 91 magic monsters, and 75% chance to have an additional modifier on our rares. But these are the different ways that you can actually go about it. You can mix and match. You could do whatever you guys want. There's so many different ways that you can juice the maps now. But the last thing that I need to show you before we look at the document, so everything makes sense on the sheet, is how I use all of these texts with the tablets. So the main idea I want you to take on this is that, first of all, throughout this entire calculation of the tech, I never ever went on a map that has been pre-juiced in the previous patch, because I don't think that would have been fair. So for example, a basic thing that you can go for is if you want to do this map, for example, and we're starting with the basic, which is what I'm going for, is 105% rarity and 95% rare monsters. We have a very big number for both of those things. Usually what I go for is split and balanced tablets as well. For example, I'm going to add rare monsters on the breach. I'm going to add a second breach. I'm going to explain why in a second, with rare monsters. And the last one is not going to be rare monsters. It's going to be rarity. This way, I'm going to give this map an extra 30% on rarity, and I'm going to give it an extra 76% on the rares. Now, this, you can go about it in any way that you want. I can take one of the breaches and I can go for rarity on the breach as well. So now, instead of all of those rares, I'm giving the map 30 plus 30, 60 extra item rarity, and 36% extra rare monsters. As long as both of your numbers are high, you're doing good. Now, the tablets, why I'm choosing these, I'm not going for rituals, I'm not going for expeditions or anything else there, is because it doesn't really make sense to me. Whenever you're juicing the maps, ritual is not affected by your juiciness of the maps, it's affected by other stuff, and the other stuff are actually juicing your maps for the rituals, like pack size. You need pack size so you can be able to collect tribute, and you need tribute so you can be able to reroll as many times as you want on the ritual. But in order for you to be able to reroll as many times as you want on the ritual, you need specific tablets that are ritual based, and you cannot just put one ritual tablet in there and expect it to work perfectly, right? So rituals is not that viable. Expedition is not that viable for my tech, at least. The best thing here to do is breach, and don't forget the breaches have rare monsters, which is even better for our tech. So the reason I go for 2 is because personally I'm utilizing the 3 additional breaches tech, so I'm trying to go as high as possible. As long as the tablets that I'm buying are not too expensive. So we're going as high as we possibly can on both rarity and rares. As you can see, I have multiple different sets here. I have always 2 breaches of rarity, 2 breaches of rares, and then irradiated is going to be my last one for rarity, 1 for rares, and that's basically it. The main idea is practically the same. You want high rarity, high rare monsters on every single map. How you do it, it's up to you. So going back to the sheet, you're going to see this is my first tech, high rarity, rare monsters with paranoia. What you saw before as the first tech with full rare monsters on the tablets is what I tried in the beginning, and it was proven pretty nicely. You're going to see all of the currency drops. If you click on this link and you open the link right here, you're going to see these were the actual drops for the 10 maps. I know the 10 maps is not something insanely big to justify the drops. I'm going to be running more maps with the ones that make sense to me, but out of 10 maps, this is pretty decent loot. The second tech, what I did is I went full rarity on Waystones with greed instead of paranoia, which is something I didn't show you earlier, which is another tech that you can go for, to just go full rarity on the Waystones and full rare monsters on the tablets, and the loot here is significantly lower than before. You're going to see even the exalted orbs and all that stuff. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not as good as the first one. The third tech that we have here is going to be high rarity and high rares on Waystones, which is the first tech as we saw. But here I was playing around a little bit with the tablets, which is what I showed you before. If you have lower rarity, you put more rarity tablets. If you have lower rare monsters, you put more rare monsters. And the currency drop here is this for 10 maps, almost identical, by the way, with the first one. So far I see a pattern. Next one, the fourth one, is full rares and magic on Waystone with paranoia, which is hitting them with the chaotic monsters that I showed you earlier, with full rarity on the tablets, which is the opposite of what we did here. And the loot here is 1 omen of light and 2 divines. You can see the entire thing right here, and it's not that bad. It's pretty decent. Full rares plus modifiers on Waystone, so I combined paranoia and fear, and then full rarity on the tablets. The loot is like this, 3 divines out of the 10, and this is everything else. And then here is where things become a little bit funny. I decided to try quantity once again, and it has actually proven to be one of the best techs that we currently have in this patch as well. I haven't seen what other content creators do. I have been streaming the entire time since the patch came out, and I was actually sick for 2 days. Yeah, it was pretty funny to see this on stream. You will see the loot here that we got is pretty good, man. Right? We've got like 2, 4, 6, 73 exalted, 4 greater, couple of these, whatever. We've got a horror, we've got 4 divines, and to be able to achieve these numbers, actually, you simply use the same tablets that we saw before, but with quantity. So 1 irradiated with max quantity of 10, and 2 breach with max quantity of 10, and also the 3 additional breaches. Using all 3 of these is going to give you 30% quantity, which is going to have a cap of 43%, as you see in the sheet. And then there's sometimes that you might be lucky where the Atlas tree is going to be able to double that to 82 as the hardest cap, which is the maximum that you can go. And the way that you get this is with the Atlas tree right here, which is the unstable energies. It makes the map harder, but it also increases your rarity, your rares, your quantity. That's why you're going to see all of my numbers fluctuating a lot, even though I'm using the same text all over. So quantity, I don't think it's dead. I'm going to keep trying these two techs and tell you what the results are, but this is what I've found so far. Overall, out of 66 maps, we had 47 divines, meaning the tinks that dropped, like Perfect Exalted, an Omen of Light, an Omen of Horror, and the divines altogether were 47 divines, which is going to come down to 0.7 tinks per map. So almost one tink per map. And if I calculate, if you click on all of these images that I added here, if I calculate the exalted orbs and all that stuff, that's going to be an extra 7 divines. So it comes down to 0.8 per map. And here's the funny thing. You could simply just do whatever you want and you're going to get almost one tank per map as long as you follow the basic things. Number one, you need to have pretty decent rarity on your gear. I had 95. I don't have the 150, which is recommended. I'm going to build it to there and see what the difference is, but I had 95. So anything above 90 is going to be good. You want to have an Atlas tree that's going to support your tech, whatever it is that you decide to go for. You need to have a build that's going to be able to go through and handle all of these maps, especially if you go for the suffix for even more juice. And you need to know how these things work so you can be able to juice them accordingly. But if you focus on rarity and you focus on rares, I don't think you can go wrong. Let me know what you guys think about this. I really hope that I helped a lot of you guys out. I really hope that I explained things correctly. I know the video is too long. I'm going to try and edit the best that I can here. I'm a little bit sick, so my brain is a little bit slow, and I'm repeating myself a lot. I'm going to try and edit that out, but it is what it is. I absolutely had a blast with every single one of you guys, whoever was on the stream while we were doing this the past couple of days. I really hope this helped you. You're going to find the link down below for this sheet. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask away in the comments down below. I always read the comments, or join us live so you can watch these kind of texts and be with us whenever we're testing things live. Thank you once again for watching, and I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Peace.